Well, I don't really know what the origin of clothing is. It's a slightly broad question because there is a lot of history in that. You have to go very, very far back. So you probably need to ask a fashion historian on that. But I think you might need to make a distinction between clothing in general or the idea about fashion. It's something more specific because surely people have at some point recently used some sort of clothing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this would be seen as fashion or as clothing in the sense that we use it to express personality and so on today. So it's a very long history.
Okay. And my second question is, what do you think how clothes affect human personality?
Well, I think different people use it in different ways. I think in the best sense it can be a reflection of your personality. It can also be used by people to actually hide some of their personality in the terms of if you're quite shy but you like to dress up very fashionable to kind of create an image of yourself. So it can be used in all kinds of different ways by people to either conform with the rules of the group or to make a point about standing out, and I guess in that sense that does reflect the personality of the individual. And I definitely think that if used well, I personally like it to be an expression of personality. Yes.
Okay, and the dresses and clothes we wear are they like societal based, or is it some kind of religious influence also including that?
I think, again, without being too big, I think it depends on the society probably that you're in. I think in Western society, the influence has probably declined, so even a lot of kind of religious people within Western society would not necessarily use clothing in a way to express their beliefs, but of course that is very different in other societies, but that I mean here kind of a general audience, not necessarily people that belong to clergy or that belong to a certain religious order. That's something different. Their clothing has always been used as a way of defining a particular role or defining a particular group. But I do think there is a strong distinction, I think, between Western society or more kind of Eastern Asian societies where clothing maybe is more strongly used as an expression.
Okay, and why different religion have like significant difference in their choice of clothing, like in their styles, and like you see the Muslim and the Jewish and the Christian. So why is that? Is that because of the cultural significance, or is it like some of that?
I think it is a mixture of culture and the need to distinguish or as a group themselves to make a kind of distinction between you and another group. And I think again boundaries I think are quite blurred there. So I mean within the Jewish tradition you find a lot of different groups. You find very orthodox groups that use clothing as a distinct way of distinguishing themselves from other people, whereas moderate groups don't have any specific clothing groups. And to my knowledge, in the kind of Muslim religion, there are also variations between the kind of the different dress codes, and that I think relates to the particular group and religious belief, but also I think the cultures. I think when the dress codes in kind of, for example, Muslims in African countries or in Asian countries, I think that you find differences there. So I think clothing is always going to be a mix of lot of different factors, and that are defined by beliefs, but also by the culture, by the climate in a way, and so there are all these kind of factors that come in. So I don't think, particularly because a lot of that has developed over quite a long time. So it's not that at some point someone stood up and said like, okay, now that's the clothes we wear from now on. It's always something that evolves in the sense of religious clothes over a very long time. So yeah.
influenced by like some kind of fashion market or designer clothes or like culture or so what do you think?
That's a tricky question. We always like to think that, of course, what we're doing, we do by our own will. But I think the easy answer would be a bit of both, because yes, of course, we at the end of the day, we are making the choices, what we put on in the morning. But it's sometimes difficult to distinguish between making your own choice and how much you're really being influenced by things you see on the street and things you see in the media, or things you see within other people in your group work. So I think these influences are definitely there, and I think it depends on the type of person. So we are kind of back to what we discussed at the beginning about personality types, and I think there's surely some people that are more eagerly following fashion trends and following developments, and other people that after time develop their own style. And I think it also depends on maybe your age and where you're kind of living. I always find that when I was 20 years, you're very keen on following trends, but the older you get, the more you develop a personal style, and then that becomes less influenced when you know what's going on, because you're kind of aware that what you feel comfortable with. So.
Okay, and last and final question: what do you think? What is modesty? How you can define it in terms of cultural theories or?
Yeah, modesty. That's an interesting one, because I think it has so many connotations with other things, so issues of humility and so on, obviously. But if you're talking in terms of kind of clothing, then I would say something that doesn't objectify the person, or kind of asks for objectification of a person, where you don't expose yourself, where you wear things that you feel comfortable with, and I think the boundaries there can also be different for people. I mean, some people feel more comfortable wearing lighter clothes, and some people like to cover up more. But I think that this is very important, that you don't feel yourself pushed to expose more or less by fashion or by kind of trend, but where you really judge by things I think you feel comfortable with, and you don't actively provoke other people. So no, I think at the end, when it comes to fashion, I think for me it also comes down to a matter of good taste. So modesty is a big philosophical concept, but I think when it comes to fashion, that's also a matter of good taste. So less is not always more. So it's,
Thank you very much.
Okay,
thanks a lot.